So this is a tough one for us classic IT introverts. We're all INTPs probably, or at least everybody in my teams always tend to sort of cluster there. And people expect a lot from us, and they need leadership, more of that later. We make mistakes, and the trouble is, with all the searchlights on you, it's actually quite hard, to admit that you have made mistakes. And I know one of the things that I talked about sometime after T5 was the things that went wrong on the launch, some of which were down to me in my department, some of which were down to other parts of the organization. It clearly hadn't worked, however hard everybody, and my God, we in BAA and everybody worked very hard to try and get it right and then sort it out. So, it's important to do that. Important to try and talk to people and communicate. And again, I know I don't do enough of this. And it's quite hard. And one of the things I find very hard is, is just to drop by and sort of say hi. The device I've adopted is to actually try and pick a project and the project team and the team leaders and to ask them just to talk me through what they're doing. That avoids the kind of Prince Charles effect of, hello, and what do you do? Well, I build systems, sort of thing. And actually, you then learn a hell of a lot, and it's usually a lot better than the budget meeting you were sitting in with the finance guys. So that's one I must try hard at. Communicate. This is Gracchus addressing the people. And I love this as a sort of dramatic symbol in about 120 BC. I suppose this is the equivalent of Twitter then. LFA-COBY, right? So communicate, communicate, communicate. Talk about, what's going on. I think people in IT departments are very, very analytical. Well, that's probably why you hired them. So, people want to know the reasons for things. In my experience, the worst times are when you don't tell people what's going on, and everybody being human just assumes the worst. Even if there's some tough messages, and certainly in those things going on in the last 10 years in British Airways, there were some very challenging messages in terms of nearly going out of business on at least once occasion, maybe twice. Certainly a lot of reductions in manpower and things like that. But I've always found that if you do take the time, however painful and difficult it is, people do make the effort to understand. Now, I wrote this in 2007. Life's a bit different now. With wikis, blogs, tweets, injunctions, and so forth we've got. So we've got more tools and really more challenges. I think it is really important to go for that. And I think it's really important for the IT department and the IT director to have a bash at this stuff because, actually that's one of the frontiers for technology. And, certainly one of the things in terms of retail, it's absolutely a space, Facebook or Twitter, that you need to occupy. And a lot of your customers are out there. So I think using it internally is interesting. But it doesn't matter how you do it. And I suppose the key thing I'm saying is do something that you're happy with. Communication is just so important. Project your department's performance. This is Cicero addressing the Senate. But I like to think of this as the board. So here you have the board, and there's the IT director. Poor chap, no friends. He's just told them they can't have an iPad, and they're not talking to him. Ah, you have been there then, yes, right. So, you really need to get your performance across. And you really need everybody to do it. Again, one of the most unedifying spectacles is the sort of people from the IT department having an unpleasant spat of which particular flavor of Linux is best in front of their customers. Their customers couldn't give a damn, but they're very, very worried by seeing that sort of spectacle. It's a bit about how do you convey when nothing's going wrong, actually how very good that is. Don't overpromise. I think one of the tendencies of IT folks, and I feel it in myself and I've seen it in my departments, is to want to please the business, because you're actually part of the business. We want to do well. We joined the company because we want to be part of it. So you get pushed and pushed and pushed, and then you overpromise. So actually, instead of actually delivering something on time and on budget, you end up being 3 months late against a target that you've imposed on yourself that's actually very, very challenging. So however hard it is, try not to overpromise. I think it is really important. You don't win any friends. In fact, you probably win friends by being really objective about how difficult things are. And I think that's something that a lot of IT folks, not people at your level, but a lot of our people don't get. Managing the perception of the IT department, very important. You need everybody bought in. And the only way you'll get people bought in is by convincing them and arguing things and being prepared to take tough questions. IT for VIPs. Here you see the coronation of Napoleon, and he's giving Josephine her first iPad. How do we get there? This is, as you all laughed when I made the iPad joke, so we've all been there. This does matter terribly, because actually the most experience that people at the top of the business, and certainly people on the board, and quite a lot of board members have, is of, what are in reality the rather, lesser important things like, does the email work? Can I download the FT on my iPad? It's not secure, but it's the FT. I don't get it. So that's what they see. And if the basics aren't being run, they never use the core systems. They don't have any perception of that. That's what the rest of the business does. That's what the frontline people do. But if you can't deliver the email successfully or cost effectively, when somebody throws a rock, from the supply chain, they might just believe them rather than you. So this really does matter. And one of the things we did in the days when you were allowed to call people geeks was, way back we provided the British Airways executive team with their own personal geek. He was a really nice guy. He's not in the room, I think. He looked the part, so that was important. And had long hair, a bit casual, went to good concerts, was laid back, not like the rest of us in the IT department. So, he went round and actually made it easy for all the BA directors, of course it's all changed now, who were terrified of technology, weren't prepared to admit that they couldn't even sort of load a spreadsheet, to actually do that in a risk-free way and actually try the good stuff. So, I think in many ways the kind of fear of the hostility to technology is actually motivated in many ways by fear. So, if these days the VIPs want to read the FT in the morning on the iPad, we ought to find ways to do it if they think it's cost effective. And if you can't run the email, no one will believe you can run the IT operation. So this is my favorite one. You've got to enforce technical standards. These are the reenactors, the Ermine Street Guards. Somebody's just made a hole in the firewall and they're off to go and sort them out. You do have technical standards. Everybody's got technical standards. Quite often, because we want to be helpful, we compromise, or that's what. Very often, you get tremendous pressure from one department that's just got to have things, and they usually have just got to have things. Or, heaven forbid, and this did happen to me once with a BA director long gone, they met somebody on a golf course who just had the system that would solve all his problems, and he was fool enough to believe it. Now, the pressures on you to accept it, to compromise, to put something that's non-standard in, are going to be very, very great. However, what you end up doing is optimizing a small part of the business or becoming somebody's best mate for half a day at the cost of sub-optimizing the whole business. And we all know that what kills you in technology, not just in cost terms, but also in security terms and efficiency terms, is complexity and non-standard. We're all, I'm sure in this room, wrestling with inherited complexity and desperately trying to simplify things. So do have the technical standards, we sure got them, and do enforce them. As I say, you sit at the intersection of the business. Our core thing is we all run complex businesses. Hopefully they're expanding. Some of them are buying other businesses. Some of them are expanding overseas. John Lewis is going to go international in a few weeks' time online. Exciting stuff. To do all that, you have to connect it all up. That's the fun bit. We are the glue that pulls the business together. To do that, you have to have technical standards. You have to really, really stick to them, I believe, because they're the glue of the business and the glue of your department, and they are the mechanism for driving down those costs in a long-term time frame, and they also make you secure. So, are these things universally applicable? Are they still applicable? Here's a picture of the Universal City Rome. You see it is all cunningly put together. Whoa, oh, come on. I think that's the next one. Yeah, it is. So what's changed since I wrote 50 Things? How we use IT. Social networking. It's here, like it or loathe it. Be a sado like me who sort of tweets and likes all that stuff, or that's the last thing you do. It is changing the world, and it's not just generational. We know in John Lewis, we've got lots of our customer base all the way through all age groups there. It's not geographical. It's global, and it is changing a whole load of things as the legal profession has found out. I've changed my job from airlines to retail. And technology, I think, is getting even more exciting. I can remember a period about 3 or 4 years ago when everybody was trying to find a new thing. It's all the same old, same old. Well, it's not like that now. Google's been sort of assailed by Facebook, and who knows what will be the next mega giant. And yes, IT is cool again. I realize that only a 50-something would write a sentence like that, but I actually do feel that, thank you, Mr. Jobs, that technology is actually very cool. And all those unreasonable requests that we get are because everybody is really, really using technology and sees its power.